This is a live video you're looking at, a shot of Pentagon in Washington. Actually, it's not live. We just saw it a few moments ago. Flames are coming out of the Pentagon. In just the past half hour or so, the fire flared up and the building is crippled. The fire is in the building's E ring, which is the outer ring. We'll keep the situation, we'll keep watching it and let you know the latest as it becomes available. Good evening, I'm Amy Barnett.
And I'm Casey Cavalt. While Americans are coming together to overcome this incident, acts of terror are still striking our nation. Today it was the U.S. Capitol building.
Lawmakers are heading back into the U.S. Capitol building. Police say an evacuation there has ended. Members of the House and Senate and their staff filed out of the building when the evacuation announced because reports were announced that a suspicious package had been spotted. There are no further details on what prompted the evacuation.
Members of the National Guard and the reserves may be called to active duty if the Pentagon decides to ask the president for the authority needed to call out the forces. The last residential call-up was in 1991 when more than 265,000 reserves were federalized for the Gulf War.
And President Bush visited the victims of the Pentagon attack today at the Washington Hospital Center, promising the victims that the U.S. would not relent until all those connected to the attacks are held accountable.
It's just a sobering moment for Laura and me, but I want to again thank the hospital, the docs, the nurses, and of course, again tell the families that the nation prays for those who have been injured during this unbelievable act of terror.
The president also says he's been reaching out to allies worldwide as he builds a coalition to respond to the terrorism.
Investigators recovered the black box of the hijacked United Airlines Flight 193 around Indian Lake today, a rural section of Pennsylvania. They also uncovered pieces of the plane several miles from where it crashed on Tuesday. Authorities have also censored a possible location of the black box from American Airlines Flight 77 that crashed into the Pentagon. They are urging residents to let them know of any wreckage they find.
The question on everyone's mind is what happened during the hijacking of the planes that crashed in New York, Washington, and Pennsylvania. Attorney General John Ashcroft says authorities may have some answers.
At least the total number of hijackers, to our best estimate and our best knowledge given the information at this time, on the 4 planes that crashed was at least 18. Unless contradicted by evidence which we wouldn't anticipate, 2 planes had 5 hijackers and 2 other planes had 4 hijackers each.
Authorities have located the black box in Pennsylvania and have censored the black box in Washington. Emergency teams are working around the clock to recover the additional devices.
Meanwhile, stranded passengers got to finally get to where they were going today. Most of the nation's airports did reopen, but some sticking to a very limited schedule, only allowing those stranded to fly. According to ABC News, airport security is at its highest since the Persian Gulf War in 1991. For example, airport officials say passengers must go now only to the ticket counter to check baggage, and curbside check-ins are now prohibited. Additionally, passengers won't be able to bring knives or cutting tools on board with them, including plastic utensils. Also, you can expect more ID checks and physical searches through baggage.
Just hours after New York's 3 major airports reopened, there was an arrest at Kennedy Airport, which closed most of the flights out of the New York 3 airports. Police say a man carrying a false pilot's identification was arrested after he tried to get past security. Several other people were also detained for questioning.
Closer to home, security has been stepped up on one of the largest undefended borders in the world.
Here's the latest on the precautions being taken at the Canadian border.
Now, the Wayne County Sheriff's Department has deployed up to 10 deputies at a time to help search every car and every truck coming into the United States.
We realize that we're at a heightened awareness of everything going on. We are a border city, and that with that, we want to make sure that there are thorough inspections, and we're going to do that.
The hope is that the deputies will help cut down on the tremendous wait time. Tomorrow, if you'll be headed across the bridge to Canada, officials say they'd like you to wait for a while.
If they'll just delay their travel somewhat so that we can get essential people in, like hospital workers, people who are traveling from Canada, like therapists, people who have an absolute urgent need to be in place.
The report was filed by CNN affiliate WJBK in Detroit. Nothing can slow or stop rescuers as they continue to search for the survivors in the rubble of the World Trade Center.
It's not known how many people died as a result of Tuesday's terrorist attack, but more than 4,700 people are still unaccounted for. San Celebs has the latest.
2.5 days into the tragedy, and emergency crews have made little progress in removing the mountain of rubble. Still, Mayor Rudy Giuliani says as many as 10,000 body bags will be needed.
And the medical examiner is able to identify the remains as a body, then they'll be identified, they'll be numbered basically for identification.
Mayor Giuliani says workers may not be able to recover all of the bodies.
It could turn out that we recover fewer than that. It could be more. We don't know the answer to that yet.
So far, there's no estimate on the number of casualties. There are 300 sniffer dogs combing the rubble right now. Hospitals are filling up quickly with what are being described as the walking wounded.
The problem has been that the site is very unstable. They can't really excavate deep into the site at present without the chance of it collapsing on itself.
Thick, acrid, chalky smoke still billows over lower Manhattan. Despite the accompanying health concerns, city officials hope to open up the area further south, from 14th Street to Canal Street. Legions of volunteers are answering calls for help, and the demand for blood donors remains high.
That was CNN reporter Sean Caleb. In New York, the search through rubble is still considered to be search and rescue. In Washington, though, the search is now one of recovery. Around 200 victims are estimated to have lost their lives.
Another building in New York may be in danger of collapsing. Authorities and rescue workers in New York fear that the Three World Financial Center across the street from where the World Trade Center once stood may not last much longer. Structural engineer Jim DeStefano said the force of such a collapse could cause damage to adjacent buildings and their underground supports. Emergency workers also pulled back from the American Express building located directly south of where the Twin Towers were as smoke poured from its windows. The building has been used as a morgue and headquarters for the triage since Tuesday's attack. And according to sources in Pakistan's intelligence service, Osama Bin Laden has moved to a new hiding place. Sources say within minutes of Tuesday's attacks in the U.S., Bin Laden was on the move and told no one where he was going. Bin Laden, as many as you know by now, is the chief suspect in the attack. He's been living in Afghanistan.
Senior Bush officials are telling the Associated Press that the U.S. is asking Pakistan to close its borders with Afghanistan and cut off funding for terrorist groups. This is because Afghanistan is host to Prime Minister Osama Bin Laden. The U.S. is also asking for permission to fly over Afghanistan territory in the event of military action.
Since Tuesday's terrorist attack, fingers are beginning to point at Osama Bin Laden. But to most Americans, he remains a shady figure which they know little about.
Christian Anapur has a profile of the reclusive terrorist.
When the Soviet Union invaded the treacherous and mountainous terrain of Afghanistan on the eve of the 1980s, it quickly found its own Vietnam. This superpower was taken on and eventually forced out by a network of Afghan guerrilla groups known as the Mujahideen. The Cold War was still on, and the United States helped recruit these resistance fighters through its allies in the region, allies like Pakistan, which borders Afghanistan. Osama bin Laden was one of those fighters, and after the war with the Soviets, he took control of the guerrilla network, which was swelled by fighters from all over the Islamic world.
Bin Laden's group grew out of the Mujahideen forces that were trained initially by the Pakistani intelligence services and the Pakistani military, and also, of course, funded by the United States.
But the United States is faulted for failing to track the growing ranks of radical Muslim guerrillas once the Soviet occupation ended. Afghanistan then descended into civil war and eventually split into two main blocs. On one side, the Northern Alliance, a loose network of ethnic minorities, nominally led by the charismatic Ahmad Shah Massoud, known as the Afghan mastermind of the Soviet defeat. He has not been seen since a bomb attack by assassins last week. On the other side, the Taliban, a fundamentalist Islamic movement representing the ethnic majority. They captured the capital, Kabul, in 1996 and are now in control of almost all Afghanistan. But their repressive regime, particularly their harsh treatment of women, have earned them almost universal condemnation. The West also accuses the Taliban of harboring Osama Bin Laden, America's enemy number one. Pakistan is one of only 3 countries recognizing the Taliban as the legitimate government, and now it's under intense pressure from the United States to get the Taliban to give up Bin Laden.
We regard terrorism as an evil that threatens the world community. Concerted international effort is needed to fight terrorism in all its forms and manifestations.
Experts point out the Taliban itself is divided between hardliners and some who would prefer more cooperation with the West. Some analysts believe the United States should now offer ultimatums and incentives to the Taliban to give up Bin Laden, at least as a first measure before a military attack. Christiana Manpour, CNN, London.
Coming up on NewsCenter at 9:30, Arab Americans are beginning to live their lives in fear after attacks in northern Indiana.
Plus, patriotism and support run high on the Ball State University campus. We'll tell you about the latest events designed to remember those lost in Tuesday's attack. Stay tuned.
In East Central Indiana, there is only one place to turn for local news.
Left 2 million Serbian residents.
Ball State has gained national attention.
NewsCenter 43.
America's
And Rule 7. We're okay on time now, guys.
Clouds begin to form.
Muncie's only live TV newscast.
Reporting live.
Only live.
On Saturday as we go to the
An
highlight.
official CNN Student Bureau. NewsCenter 43, Monday through Thursday at 5:30 and 9:30 on Burrs Channel 43.
Closer to home on the Ball State campus, it's clear the support for victims of this tragedy has not let up. More prayer vigils will be held tonight, and a fundraiser at the Blue Bottle Coffee House last night raised almost $300. That money will go directly to victims in Washington and New York. Also a memorial today outside University Plaza, where people could light a candle in memory of those who lost their life. Tomorrow, in observance of National Prayer and Remembrance Day, Ball State will have a brief service on the Arts Terrace at noon. Tomorrow is also Red, White, and Blue Day at Ball State. We are all urged to wear those colors. From our partners at the Ball State Daily News, here is online editor Matthew Mace with tomorrow's headlines tonight. Matthew?
Thanks, Casey. Tomorrow in the Daily News, we'll let you know how Ball State is observing the National Day of Prayer. Also, we'll give you a list of all the sporting events being canceled. Plus, we'll continue to look at the latest in the attacks. These stories and more will be in tomorrow's Daily News. Now back to Casey.
Thanks, Matthew. Police are investigating 2 possible hate crimes that occurred in Gary yesterday. A masked gunman fired at a Yemeni man in a Gary gas station, and the owner of a Jordanian restaurant arrived to work to see his windows completely broken out.
The Indianapolis International Airport came to life this morning, but only to people who already had scheduled flights. Authorities there urge passengers to double-check their flight information and only come to the airport if they have a confirmed flight. And the Chicago Board of Trade and the Chicago Mercantile Exchange reopened today, but with limited trading, although New York financial markets will not reopen tomorrow as previously thought. Instead, trading is now expected to open no later than Monday morning. And Andrea Burnett joins us for weather.
Well, let me tell you, it's definitely getting a lot colder out. Could be seeing some showers tonight, but how long are they going to last? I'll let you know coming up next. Well, here we are looking at the campus cam. It's kind of cloudy out there tonight with a few showers and some isolated storms could be expected. Today's high was 81. This is probably the hottest it's going to be for the remainder of the week. Cooler temperatures will be coming our way. And tomorrow morning you'll see the sunrise at 6:22 a.m. Taking a look at the highs around the state, we can see Muncie was at 81. And also temperatures cooler down in South Bend at 66. And that's because of the cold front that's been pushing down from the north. And moving on, we can see our current conditions. It's cloudy outside. Temperature is decreasing very rapidly. Right now we're at 57, and those winds are still strong and coming from the northwest at 17 miles per hour. And continuing to look at the national satellite, you can see we do have some storms and heavy cloud cover over here in the west. And we also have cloud cover very heavily here in Florida. And this is because Tropical Gabriel is starting to come in, bringing intense showers to this area overnight. And continuing, we can see that for the national radar, these showers that we've been seeing are pushing off towards the east, but we still have some hitting us here in northern Indiana, and then down towards the south in Florida, you can see where Gabriel is taking over and bringing scattered showers all throughout Florida. And considering the big picture, we can see that the jet stream, colder air is going to be coming down, that cold front is going to be pushing over, and it's also going to be bringing possibly over ½ an inch of rain to New York, which could muddy up some of that soil and cause the recovery to take care and be a little bit harder for them to work. Taking a look at the regional radar, right now we can see all this rain is going to be pushing down. Here in Muncie, we could be seeing some showers take place within the next hour to 2 hours. And looking forward for tonight, high pressure will be dominating our system, but the colder air is going to be taking care of us, bringing forth some nicer, cooler autumn temperatures, so you can probably start getting out those sweatshirts within the next few days. And for tonight, we can see that in our area it's going to be partly cloudy. Isolated showers are going to be in the area. The low is going to be getting down to 46, so maybe if you feel like it, open up those windows just for a little while to get some cooler air before the rain begins. And for tomorrow morning, you can see that it's going to be partly cloudy out, temperature of around 49. And continuing into tomorrow, we are going to be seeing some more things going on. The map is going to be showing the high pressure still going to be dominating our area, making for a nice weekend. And then, as you can see for tomorrow, sun is going to be coming out though, high only reaching 67 degrees, so definitely a lot lower than today. And taking a look at the 3-day outlook, you can see that it's going to be a nice weekend. The sun is going to be popping out, and by Monday, things are going to be getting a little warmer. So just, hold on to the umbrella tonight and enjoy your weekend.
Sounds like we can officially put up those swimsuits, though.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Thank you, Andrea. Ricky Semler joins us for sports. Ricky, what do you have for us?
Well, the sports world has been on stay in zone. Reason it should be. We'll tell you what's going on this weekend sports-wise coming up next in sports.
New information coming in from the Associated Press. They're reporting that the U.S. and Philippine authorities raided a Manila hotel in connection with the attacks here in the U.S. The joint action took place at a hotel near the U.S. Embassy in Manila. A suspect in the 1993 bombing at the World Trade Center was arrested at the same hotel. And Ricky joins us for sports now.
Yeah. At times of tragedy and loss, people turn to events such as sports to bring joy and boost the spirits of a nation. But out of remembrance of those who were lost this past Tuesday, Ball State has decided to postpone this Saturday's game against Southern Illinois. According to Assistant Athletics Communication Director Chris Taylor, this is the first time he can remember a BSU game was called off. The closest he says the university came prior to today was at the start of the Gulf War. Athletic Director Andy Seeger thought the game on Saturday could help people get their minds off the tragedy for a while.
We thought if we did it the correct way with the correct tribute that it would be something that says, yes, we understand the tragedy, but on the right circumstances, we think people do need a little bit of a breather. It doesn't mean that we've forgotten about anything. It just means that President Bush had indicated a return to normalcy, and we were trying to follow that guideline.
The Cardinals will resume play next Saturday as they begin MAC play at Western Michigan. Besides football, the following sports have been canceled. The Ball State women's soccer match against Taylor and the BSU field hockey team games at Maine tomorrow, plus the field hockey team games versus Dartmouth Sunday have been canceled. The men's and women's cross-country meets scheduled Friday at the Indiana Intercollegiate in West Lafayette have been canceled. The Ball State softball team was to play in a fall tournament at Purdue Sunday, but that as well has been canceled. There is no word yet if any of these events will be rescheduled for a later date. In addition, the Ball State Athletics Hall of Fame banquet that was set for Friday will be rescheduled for a later date. Never in a non-strike season has a nation seen a week go by from September to December without the National Football League. For the first time in NFL history, regular season games have been canceled. The league is now facing many questions on what to do with the remaining regular season games. Here are 3 possible ideas. Play a 15-game schedule except for San Diego, which is off this weekend and would play a 16-game. Play this week's games on the wild card weekend and cut the playoff wild cards in each conference from 3 to 1, and the least likely option here, the bye weeks to finish, do a 16-game schedule and leave the playoffs the same as they are. And since Tuesday, the baseball world, including its pennant races and a quest of 70 home runs, has been on hold. As it now stands, baseball will not be played again till at least Monday. Baseball will make up all the games by extending the regular season, which has been scheduled to end September 30th. The games will be rescheduled for the week of October 1st. And guys, I mean, right now the sports world, I mean, it needs to be on hold. Maybe they'll start stuff up back next week again, but right now they shouldn't be playing anything.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks, Ricky. When we return, Andrea Burnett will have a complete look at your weekend forecast.
Stay tuned. And Andrea will have our wake-up weather for us. Andrea?
Well, definitely it's going to be a much cooler night, but you know, that's something that we can all need and expect for tonight. Partly cloudy, some isolated storms will be around, but tomorrow morning looking partly cloudy, temperature around 49, but the sun is going to continue to be around. High is going to be around 67, and for your 3-day outlook, the sun is going to be around for a nice weekend. High by Monday will be back up to 73. So a lot cooler temperatures. Please enjoy the weather for the weekend.
Let's grab those sweatshirts.
That's right.
Okay, thanks. Again, we'll recap tonight's latest information. The Associated Press is reporting that the U.S. and Philippine authorities raided a Manila hotel in connection with the attacks here in the U.S. The joint action took place at a hotel near the U.S. Embassy in Manila. A suspect in the 1993 bombings of the World Trade Center was arrested at the same hotel. Well, thanks for joining us for NewsCenter at 9:30. I'm Amy Barnett.
And I'm Casey Cavalt. NewsCenter 43 is an official CNN student bureau. Be sure to stay tuned on Monday for NewsCenter at 5:30.